This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, President Trump's travel restrictions. With us this evening, Alex Mohajer, the founder of Bros for America and a writer for the Huffington Post, and Daniel Greenfield, a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center and the editor of the blog The Point that can be found at frontpagemag.com. Gentlemen, welcome to the Glazov Gang.
Thanks for having me.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Well, we have, gentlemen, a lot of turmoil going on now, a lot of controversy around what we could call Trump's new travel restrictions. Alex, let me begin with you. What do you make of it all?
What I think of it, I think, I think he made good on a campaign promise that I think many Americans, especially on the left, didn't think was literal or was something that he would follow through on. And I think it's sparked, obviously, a great deal of outrage and response in people. And I think that part of that is warranted because when they hear the words Muslim ban, and I know that the administration is now walking that term back, when they hear that phrase, hopefully it would elicit a response in people that the administration would be prohibiting entry to the United States based on religious affiliation is distinctly un-American and unconstitutional, and I have my own feelings about why he did that go beyond the reason, the political. So, but that's for maybe another time.
So, Alex, do you think that it might be justified for America to be perhaps concerned about populations where you have people that are very dedicated to Sharia law, to the principles of Islamic jihad, that perhaps America should be concerned about people from those populations coming into the United States?
Do you have a statistic, or do you know offhand how many acts of terrorism have occurred because of a refugee who's been admitted to the country? Because as I understand it, it's zero. Those people are seeking to escape religious persecution and also seeking to escape the very thing that we are also trying to defend against. To say that we're not going to let those people in it goes against everything that we stand for, I think, as Americans. It is to me, it is shameful. I understand that people are scared about terrorism and they're apprehensive. But I don't know that this is the answer. In fact, I think that this makes us less safe. I think that it's going to be used as a recruitment tool for various terrorist cells across the world. And I don't think it's a positive message that it sends out about America.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead. Thank you, Alex. Daniel, go ahead.
Sure.
Well, let's go back in time a little bit. One of the key people in the original World Trade Center bombing enters the United States. He's at the airport. He's at JFK Airport. His documentation is illegitimate. He should be detained, but instead of being detained, he's just allowed to walk free on the street. We get the World Trade Center bombing. From there, we go right to September 11th. This is really how the road goes. Now, when it comes to refugees and terror, the Boston Marathon bombers, the guys who put a pressure cooker bomb next to a little boy, those people came here as refugees. We've had plenty of refugee terror. And the idea that we are better off opening our borders, Germany disproved that pretty conclusively. Germany opened its borders, over 1 million people came through. They all claim to be refugees. Some of them proved to be terrorists. We've had horrifying, devastating terrorist attacks in Germany, horrifying, devastating terrorist attacks in France. So the idea that ISIS recruitment is going to, really the issue there is going to be stopped by taking in immigrants certainly does not work. We've had virtually open borders under the Obama administration. ISIS recruitment have only grew. ISIS recruitment went up tens of thousands of people. So immigration at the bottom line is a national security problem, and it's finally being treated like a national security problem.
I can move on to some questions,
If
but
I can respond to
Yeah,
that,
go
though,
ahead.
if I might. Okay, so first of all, the 9/11, you referenced 9/11. The 9/11 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Lebanon. Okay, the immigration ban was for Libya, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Somalia, and the Sudan, none of which were 9/11 countries. Also, coincidentally, the four countries that I listed that were 9/11 related are also four countries that are exempt from the ban, but also four countries that Donald Trump does personal business with. And I think that that is personally disquieting. So if you're going to use 9/11 as a reference point, yeah, this ban has done absolutely nothing to prevent those countries from entry. Secondly, the Boston Marathon bombers, as I recall, were Sharnev. I can't say this.
Tsarnaev.
Yeah, and they're, as I recall, they were natives of, they're Chechen, right?
Yeah.
So again, I don't know. I don't know that this addresses a legitimate concern about entry of terrorists to the United States. In fact, if you're going to use 9/11 as a reference point, I would say that has no relevance at all.
Daniel?
The reference point was actually to the World Trade Center bombing, not September 11th. The World Trade Center bombing came before September 11th. More to the point,
which
countries,
bombing in 1992?
The World Trade Center bombing, the original bombing using a truck bomb.
In 1992
September 11th.
or 1990?
More to the point, we have a serious problem here, and the countries there, the countries that are on the list, have nothing to do with Trump's business ties. This is nonsense that is being peddled these days. The issue there is that major portions of these countries are controlled by terrorists. You have Yemen, Al-Qaeda controls portions of that. Houthi jihadists who are controlled by Iran control other major portions of the country. When you come to Iran, Iran is basically a country controlled by terrorists. So Libya, ISIS and Al-Qaeda control entire cities there. So this is a list that was had nothing to do with Trump's business ties. It's based on the Obama administration's own list of countries that are being scrutinized. They're being scrutinized because, again, terrorists control major parts of those countries. Now, I agree that Saudi Arabia should very much be on that list. The September 11th Saudi hijackers, that was a major failure of immigration because these people had completely worthless visa forms. They mangled basic information. And this should absolutely be expanded. But right now, they're using the Obama administration's own criteria for scrutiny.
Okay. Can I go to a question, or Alex, do you want to say something?
Oh, well, I guess I would just add that the Obama administration, officials from the Obama administration have come on record to rebut this, that it's based on a list of countries that were established by the Obama administration. He didn't establish a ban on those countries. He put them on a new screening procedures list. It's two different things. And Democrats were calling for screenings and background checks too. I mean, Hillary Clinton ran on that in her campaign. It was a major part of her platform. She said, we will institute background checks, and we should be looking at these specific countries and making sure we strongly vet people in those countries before they come in. That being said, she didn't call for a hard ban based on religious affiliation. She didn't call for a hard ban based on them being Islamic. There's more than 1 billion members of Islam. And I'm not Muslim at all. I have some Middle Eastern in my ancestry, but I'm not Muslim. I have no knowledge of Islam really, I'm not well read on Islam, but I will say that if there's over 1 billion members of Islam in the world, and less than a fraction of a percentage point represents a portion of them that has become radicalized, it's just an ugly thing to say. It's conflating Islam with a very small group of radicalized folks, and I think that's it's a mistake. It's dangerous. And anyway, that'll be my final point.
Daniel?
When it comes to these countries, it's not a small group of folks. Now, in Iran, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps is literally a terrorist organization, and it controls much of the country. In places like Yemen and Libya, again, terrorists actually control entire major portions of the country. So it's not 4 guys there, it's not 5 guys there. We're talking about millions and millions of people. Now you have entire governments outside it. Alex mentioned Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, some other countries like that. Again, the governments have close ties to terrorists. Pakistan was hiding Osama bin Laden right next to their own military compound. So these are countries where leadership is controlled by terrorists. Now, what percentage of the country, what percentage of the population agrees with this position is hard to say. But the reality is when you have entire countries that are controlled by terrorists, you can't just simply wave that away.
Okay, but let me say, I've been to Iran and I've been to Turkey. I have Iranians in my family. I know for certain, and this is anecdotal, of course, but I know that having been to Iran, that the majority of the people there are craving democracy, are craving Westernization. They curse the Islamic Republic. They, I saw it firsthand when I went. And when I went there, I was worried and scared. I was scared because of everything that you just said and the way you portrayed it and the way that Western media portrays those countries. And I went there and I was very surprised to find that they were extremely warm to me when they found out I was American. I just want to finish this point. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard that you reference does not represent the Iranian people. That's a repressive regime, an oppressive regime that those people want to break free from. Right. And so we must differentiate between the Iranian people or the people in these countries and their oppressive governments. And if we don't, we are letting them down because we must be a moral authority on this, and that we are instituting a ban that refuses those people entry it's doing us more harm than good.
Alex, just let me say this for a second. We're not in disagreement on that. It's the framework and the boundaries of our discourse here. Those quote unquote great good people that crave democracy, those are not the people that we're worried about. There's many, many good people in the world, but a few people can do damage, Alex. And so you say you're not an authority on Islamic doctrine or text, but perhaps you should look into it, because here's what let me put this out there for you. If there's Islamic texts out there that call for jihad, that call for the killing of the kufr, of the infidel, even if a small amount of people and one person can do a lot of damage, are you not concerned that Islamic texts inspire and sanction jihad? No one is saying that all Muslims are bad. There are many Muslims that do not follow those commands or are interested in them. But there are Islamic ideological beliefs, and it is a problem that there are people who follow those violent mandates. And so when ISIS brags that it's infiltrating refugees with its terrorists that are following that Islamic ideology, surely this is a problem.
Well, what I would say to that is that then put a ban on every country that has terrorism from every religion, and treat it equally. We didn't see a ban on Saudi Arabia or a few of the other countries I listed, and we don't have a ban on Ireland. We should put a ban on Ireland because they've got homegrown terrorists there in the name of Christianity, or the Central African Republic. They've got Christian terrorists there, or Lebanon, or Uganda.
How many Americans were killed by Central African terrorism, or for that matter, how many buildings in the United States has the IRA blown up? I mean, let's use some common sense here. The last 20 years, we've had thousands of people in America killed by Islamic terrorists.
And the buildings that you just referenced were bombed by terrorists from countries that are not on the Muslim ban.
But they were bombed by Islamic terrorists.
Fine, but it's a bit disingenuous to say that.
The countries on the list are controlled by Islamic terrorists. That's why they're on the list. As far as Saudi Arabia, I'm all for a ban on Saudi Arabia, but the reality is that we have immigration that exports terrorism into the United States. We have to deal with it.
All right. Well, you know what I was responding to was Jamie's statement that he's concerned that there's Islamic texts that says things about jihadism. And I was just simply responding that there are texts from all the religions that have violent implications, and there are there are groups from various religions who have enacted acts of terror all around the world in the name of multiple different religions. And so it's just to me, it is that argument is pretext for discriminating against one specific religion.
Okay.
And regardless of the religion, I would say that it's not American to ban people entry based on their religion. All the religions out there have violent texts, have violent implications in their texts.
Okay, Alex, thank you. It's already been, empirically shown that whatever text, Jesus never said to go out and kill anybody. Also, in the Old Testament, it's been shown those verses are descriptive and not prescriptive. This is for another time and place. So let me move on. Let me move forward. Daniel, quick comment, and let's wrap it up here tonight.
We don't have a major IRA terrorism problem in the United States. We don't have a major Central African Republic terrorism problem in the United States. The last 20 years, we've had thousands of people killed by Muslim terrorists. I mean, we can either deal with that or we can dance around in politically correct circles.
Alex, let me ask you this. In terms of Chuck Schumer crying the other day, and the left is really, really upset right now. How come the left was not in agony during Obama's Christian ban?
I think that's you'll have to ask the American left. You can't have me ask.
But for instance, Muslim refugees were given priority. It came out in the emails that the Obama administration had a religious test in terms of hiring Muslims rather than Christians. Does that, for instance, if you were shown that evidence, would that upset you?
I don't believe that that's a genuine representation of the emails. I think diversity in hiring is not the same thing. You're conflating diversity in hiring practices with discriminating based on one is not the other.
Okay, just a second.
I cannot answer for the American left with regards to their outrage or their I've seen this. Let me just finish, please. I have heard this argument brought up, where was your outrage when Obama X, Y, or Z? Obama is not the president now. Obama is gone. This is what's before us right now. I cannot answer for the American Democrats or the liberals or the left wing. What I can say is this: there is a partisan problem in this country. There is expressed outrage by the left when the right does something, and then there's expressed outrage from the right when the left does something, and it's partisan hackery. And it's extremely frustrating, it's extremely tiring. And also, I think that it's really counterproductive because at some point we've got to stop making each other the enemy and say, there's a difference between enemies and adversaries. We may be on opposite sides of a disagreement, but that only makes us adversaries. And adversaries merely seek to advocate for their position and win on their position on the merits. Enemies seek to destroy one another. And what we've seen is this partisan left-right, seeking to destroy each other. And I think bringing up Obama and what he did in 2011 it's so counterproductive to the discussion because you're deflecting from the conversation to say, well, why didn't you get outraged about something that happened 5 years ago? Well,
okay.
I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Just wait, Alex. Thank you. Just wait. Very briefly, Daniel, can you just crystallize the Christian ban just so our viewers know what we're talking about?
2/3 of Syrian Christians were displaced in the Islamic Sunni Shiite civil war in Syria. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, certainly the population of Aleppo, over 100,000 people. Nonetheless, 99% of the refugees from Syria that were accepted by the Obama administration were Muslims, Sunni Muslims for the most part. In 2016, only 125 Christians were accepted at all. Now, when you consider that Christians were disproportionately affected, that they were displaced in huge numbers, this amounts to very much a covert ban. It amounted to a ban on Christians. It amounted to a ban on the most persecuted population in Syria, and frankly, was complicity in genocide.
And also, there was also hiring stuff. But Alex, look, I know you don't speak for the left. I'm just making an observation that there seems to be a double standard in the kind of quote-unquote bans that the left gets upset about. We're out of time. Last minute goes to you, Alex. Go ahead.
I would just say this is that this kind of conjecture about Obama banning Christians and it not being a Muslim ban, it's all pretext. And actually, I think that's what's sort of dancing around the real issue. The real issue is this is an Islamophobic policy that is distinctly un-American. It's distinctly unconstitutional, and that's that. And I understand that there is a faction of people who doesn't like Muslims, who believe Muslims are warmongers, and they don't want Muslims in our country. But just say it.
Alex, just wait. Alex, this is a slander because the real counter jihadists have nothing against the Muslim people. They're concerned about the Muslim people who follow the texts that mandate and instruct violence. So nobody has a problem with a Muslim person with whom I work with that doesn't follow Islamic violent teachings.
I believe that you don't, and that is why I came on your show. I looked you up and I watched your stuff, and I believe that you are not that person that I'm talking about. But I think that to say that is not a part of what is going on is not paying attention to what happened in the year preceding this election in terms of the rhetoric that Donald Trump used to inspire a certain portion of the electorate. Okay. It was very distinctly white, nativist, protectionist language that he used. And I'm not saying that you are, or even Daniel is, but it is distinctly a problem. And to just finish, that is not America. Our country is based on welcoming people based on all religions, especially people that are persecuted or who are from these kinds of countries where there's so much conflict. So okay. I think admitting letting Syrian refugees in, letting these folks in from these countries is the American thing to do. And if you're really concerned, institute a more vigorous vetting process.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead.
As Alex already said, the basis for the list comes from the Obama administration. If this is an Islamophobic policy, then Obama must be an Islamophobe.
That is not true. And you can't call Barack Obama an Islamophobe and then also say he's an anti-Christian. And I mean, which is he? And also, he's not the president. He's gone. Your chance to bring that up and everything is well noted, but it's past due. It's moot at this point.
Okay, we're out of time. 10 seconds, Daniel, and then we got to go.
The screening list that Alex and that the left is objecting to comes from the Obama administration. If it's Islamophobic, then Obama is an Islamophobe. If it's not Islamophobic, then Donald Trump can't be an Islamophobe either.
You know what? And if all I'll say is that's not true. And there's plenty of text on that. The Obama administration has already come out and said that that's not true. So you can look at that.
Alex and Daniel, thank you for joining the Glazov Gang. I hope you'll both be back.
Thank you.
Thank you. And join us for the next edition of the Glazov Gang. Good night.